This is my wife's Kia EV9. This is her daily driver and our dog hauler, and this thing is in some serious need of love. Now, since winter has basically left the chat here in Colorado, it is literally 90 degrees today when I'm filming this, I figured it was probably a good time to do a updated spring cleanup video. So we're going to go through and talk about what we do to get off all of that winter dirt and grime, everything from cleaning the wheels and tires as well as wheel wells, cleaning things like door jambs, going through doing a pre-wash on the car, doing our full contact wash, potentially even decontaminating it with iron removers and clay towels, and of course at last putting a little bit of short-term protection to boost whatever protection we might already have on the vehicle. Welcome back to the channel. Let's jump into it. I know this seems like a ton of products here, and I would absolutely agree with you. I promise we're going to walk through all of these steps, talk about the products you absolutely need, things you can skip over, and things you might want to consider when doing a deep spring cleanup. Now, the whole purpose of doing a spring cleaning on our vehicle is to get all of that winter dirt and grime off. I'm sure for a lot of you, you haven't really had that much time to actually maintain your vehicle, might have been super cold, and you might just not have had time to actually wash your car. Now, for whatever reason, Colorado here just completely decided to skip winter. It is genuinely 90 degrees outside today in the middle of March. I don't understand what is happening, but the cars are filthy. They need a bath, and let's go all through this. So this is, as you can see here, kind of a step-by-step process of how I break it down. I want to start off here, and I'm going to chapterize out this video so you guys can skip directly to the stuff you want to over the stuff you don't care about or already know about. But I wanted to lay out all of these products to show you what kind of process I go through, how that process works, and specifically what type of products I recommend using for it. So we'll start over here with Belt Hamber Touchless. Now, this is an alkaline-based pre-wash. Now, we're not actually going to be using this on the actual paint today. Now, for full confusion here, understand a lot of you are like scratching your heads like, what? I thought that's what it was for. This is a product that I really like using in something like an IK sprayer. Now, the reason I don't love using this in a foam cannon is because if you run an AR635 like myself, 3 gallons per minute, you blow through a ton of this solution. So we'll be using Labo Cosmetica Primus 2.0 over here instead in our foam cannon. Now, the reason I have the IK here is for a couple of reasons. So typically, anytime we start our washes, I like to focus on the wheels and tires first. Now, if you have a lot of salt, a lot of just buildup from that winter dirt and grime, brake dust, things like that, this is a great way to start it, especially if you have gloss black wheels. You want to get that dirt and grime off instead of just rinsing them. So I would recommend filling up your IK here. We'll go through all the dilution ratios, all that fun stuff later in the video, and this is going to be great for that. So you can actually think about this as your pre-wash for your wheels, and we'll focus on the paint later. Now, you can also use this importantly in door jambs. Now, typically I would slot that right in here after I clean up the wheels and tires. So moving on to wheels and tires now, couple recommendations for products I like to use. So I would recommend having a dedicated tire and rubber cleaner. One of my favorites out there is from Armor Detail Supply. Does a really good job getting in there, releasing all of that blooming off the tire, all of that browning, which I'm sure a lot of you have coming in here to spring. Now, there are a few different options for wheel cleaners out there. So one of my favorite iron removing wheel cleaners out there is the ADS wheel cleaner. They have figured out a way to make their wheel cleaning products not smell like absolute rotten eggs. So this is one of my favorite products for doing so. It's also relatively economical to use, but it is more on the expensive side. If you want to skip this, maybe you drive an electric car that doesn't have as bad a brake dust as something like a BMW, Audi, Mercedes, what I'd recommend is using something like an all-purpose cleaner or something like Kosh Chemi Green Star. Great product to use that'll actually, after you go through and break down that dirt and grime, just help you clean up your wheels and tires. Now, I also recommend when you are cleaning up your wheels and tires to foam down that area as well, to give some lubrication for all your brushes. Now, speaking of brushes, there's a multitude of different things. I'm going to run you through some of my favorites here. So for getting into the barrels, the easy detail brushes, I like these much more than some of the other ones that have, you know, like a microfiber wrap around them. These things are absolutely phenomenal. Now, they are brushes here, but don't be scared by these. These are not going to scratch up your gloss black wheels. These are amazing for getting into deep barrels, getting behind spokes, things like that. You can actually bend these. You can get this right in there. absolutely phenomenal product for that. You're also going to want some smaller detail brushes here. Now there's two options, a boar's hair brush as well as this softer bristled brush. This would be something for some very, very sensitive piano black wheels, something like that, that really scratches easy. Would recommend both of these. Pretty much all of these other brushes, other than the Easy Detail brush, are basically from the Detail Factory. They make some of the best brushes out there on the planet. So speaking of other amazing brushes, here our wheel face brush. This is a very, very soft, gentle brush that is going to help you get in there, break down all of that dirt and grime on the face of the brush, whereas the Easy Detail brushes are going to get behind the spokes. Now another option here that is great to use is something like this from the Rag Company. So this is actually a wheel cleaning mitt that you can put on your hand. Very helpful to get in intricate areas, also on the back of spokes. If you really want to do a deep clean, these are fantastic, and then you can wash these after the fact so they're nice, clean, ready to go for next time. Other couple of things you might want here are tire scrub brushes. So there are two different sizes from the Detail Factory that I like based on what type of car you have. If you've got something with big chunky off-road tires, you're going to want to go the XL brush. If you've got something like my Model 3 Performance with damn near rubber band tires on them, you're going to go with the smaller one here. And then lastly, one of the last products I recommend having is something like this. This is a fender liner brush. You can see it's got a longer handle on it. It has kind of medium stiffness of bristles on here. It's not as crazy as like the dedicated tire brushes here. This is going to be great, especially for plastic fender liners. Now, if you don't have plastic fender liners and you have something like our Kia EV9 here with those very crappy, terrible to clean carpeted fender liners, what you're going to want to do is grab something like this. This is a turbo nozzle. Now, this basically takes a 0-degree tip, so basically a straight stream, and spins it like this. These are fantastic for actually cleaning out fender liners. You have never seen fender liners get so clean, carpet fender liners, with something like this. It just breaks up all that dirt and grime, flushes it out of the car, so that's going to be a main contributor to what we're using today. So after we've cleaned up wheels and tires, like I said, you might want to hit the door jambs, and something like this, Built Hammer Touchless, is absolutely great for that. So if they're super dirty, you can go in, use some of your wheel brushes to get in all of those little nooks and crannies in there around the hinges, things like that, especially if you live, you know, in the Midwest, on the East Coast, you have a lot of salt. That's something you're definitely going to want to do. Now, you can either pressure wash this out, or you can use something like this. This is called the Keeve nozzle. It's a rain shower head nozzle that actually quick connects right onto your pressure washer. This is great for not splashing water everywhere, not getting a ton of mist in your interior, and all of that stuff. So now that the really dirty, grimy areas are done, we focus on the actual paint and the body of the vehicle. So again, this is an area I don't really like to do a pre-wash before all of this stuff, because your vehicle is sitting outside wet after the fact. But Labo Cosmetica Premis 2.0, something I love using on the paint and works very well in a foam cannon with high flow pressure washers. So again, something like Built Hammer Touchless over here, you're probably going to use 300 plus milliliters of solution, which is absolutely absurd. Labo Cosmetica Premis 2.0 is still an amazing cleaner, alkaline-based pre-wash here, and does a phenomenal job at stripping off that dirt and grime before you ever touch it. That to me is one of the most important things, instead of just trying to rinse it off or just using a pH neutral soap. This is actually meant to break down that road grime, that road film. So we'll go through all these processes, but I just want to break this down for you. So I've got a dedicated foam cannon for my alkaline cleaner. This is not necessarily what you need to do here. So I've got alkaline, pH neutral, and acidic stuff. It's just helpful if you're doing this process. Fill everything, you can quick snap them on the pressure washer gun, and you're good to go. So after we've done our Premis 2.0 on the vehicle's body, we're going to let that sit, let it dwell, let it break down that dirt and grime. We're going to rinse it off. We're going to refoam the vehicle with a pH neutral soap. Now for me here at the shop, this is an expensive soap. I don't necessarily recommend this for absolutely everybody. If you have a high flow pressure washer, you need concentrated soap. DIY Detail Incredible Suds Type 2 here, phenomenal at it. So I actually use 3 ounces of this. If you've got something like an Active 2.0, Active 2.3, you can get away with using a bunch of different pH neutral soaps. Some of my other notable favorites out there, Meguiar Shampoo Plus, Yeah, that's, I guess, one of them. Adam's Megafoam is also a good one, so you don't have to use a ton of products, a little bit more economical than this, but really like this product. Just find yourself a good pH neutral soap, whatever you like, and use that. So after we've done the contact wash on the car, then it's time to decide, okay, do we have some mineral deposits on our vehicle that we actually need to start removing? Now there's a couple different ways you can go about this. So you can use something like CarPro D-Scale over here. This is an acidic car wash shampoo that's gonna go in there, break down that lime scale, those mineral deposits. This is not necessarily something you have to do. It's just depending on the condition of your vehicle. I'm not assuming with this car we actually need to do it. We'll kind of see how the vehicle looks after we've gone through and done our pre-wash, contact wash, and figure that out. If you really need some punching power here, something like this, Kosh Cami Reactivation Shampoo. Now this in the bottle here is a pH of 1. Once you dilute this out, this is some seriously caustic heavy stuff. Now this can kind of destroy coatings if your coatings are on the weaker side, but this is also meant to really get in there and deep clean coatings. So be very careful with this product, especially on the acidic side here, as well as alkaline. You never want to let these dry. Read the instructions on the back of the bottle. I don't necessarily think we're going to be doing this today, but we might. We'll just see what it needs. Then over here, we move to our actual mechanical decontamination stage. So this is using something like a iron remover and something like a clay towel. Now, I'm not the largest fan of claying your vehicle very often. You can risk marring it. Now, using clay towels is better than clay bars. Clay bars are actually abrasive in nature. These are not abrasive. But if you think about it, all those little metallic iron particulates you're picking up, you're scrubbing into the surface, the likelihood that you will get some marring in there is very, very high. So you can do this two ways. If your car's coated relatively clean, just use an iron remover, let the chemical break it down. If your car actually needs mechanical agitation or removal of those iron deposits, clay towels are the best way, safest to go. Now over here, I like ADS's iron remover, very similar to their wheel cleaner over here. The best smelling iron remover on the planet, has plenty of lubrication, so this is good for that. So we'll run through this process, when and how you would do that. And then lastly, after we've done our full decon here, we want something like a paint sealant or a quick spray on, something to boost that protection we have, or just put something on the vehicle surface. Now in here is Gyeon Wet Coat. Gyeon Wet Coat is a phenomenal product because it works on everything from glass to paint to wheels to plastic trim, grills. It works on absolutely everything. You can even use this on matte paint, satin paint, PPF, vinyl, whatever it is. So this is going to be after you've done all your decons, rinse the vehicle down before you're ready to dry it. You spray it on a wet panel, pressure wash it off, and boom, you're going to see those beads come back and give a little bit of protection. That's actually all my wife's Kia EV9 has. Now, after we've done all of that, it's time to get into drying. So you can use something like a drying aid. This is Armor Detail Supplies Amplify. This is an SiO2 based detailer. Very good for helping you pick up water while leaving a little bit extra behind. The slickness on this is absolutely incredible. So I like to pair that with something like these. These are the Rag Company liquidators here. This is their color burst version. You can use the non-color burst. Just find a nice microfiber drying towel that you like, whether it's from Auto Fiber, the Rag Company, the House of Rags, whatever it is. And spoiler alert, I'm actually doing a video here very soon talking about the best drying towels for 2026. I purchase every single drying towel from the Rag Company, the House of Rags, as well as Auto Fiber to see which is actually best and which you should spend your money on. So now that we understand the products we're using, let's jump over here to the process. We're going to start off here with Built Hamber Touchless. And this is a product that actually requires you to use a panel impact ratio. Essentially what that means is they are trying to get a percentage of the solution once it's actually on the vehicle. So if you're using it in something like an AgK, getting something like a 2% panel impact ratio, which is the maximum you can use this at, probably what you're going to be using in the springtime here. It's very simple to do. So we're going to make 2,000 milliliters of solution, which means we take 1,960 milliliters of straight water and only 40 milliliters of solution to get our 2% panel impact ratio. Now I've actually already tested this before in some previous videos, using it in a normal traditional sprayer like an IK here, using it in an IK foamer, and using it in a foam cannon. There's basically zero difference there in terms of the cleanability. So instead of using 300 plus milliliters in a foam cannon, this is the way to go. It's also really great for getting into tight, intricate areas. So we're just gonna pour this right in here and we'll get this all mixed up. So I'll make sure I get all this solution, and I'll pour about 1,000 milliliters at a time straight into our IK. And then if we need more, we can come back for it. 2,000 milliliters should be totally fine for this. So starting off here with our Built Hammer touchless in our IK, we want to make sure the wheels are cool to the touch and that they are dry. You don't want to rinse this off first. Again, whole concept of this, wheels, if you have shiny black wheels like this, you don't want to take all that dirt and just try and rinse it and then continually scrub it into the wheel. That doesn't make sense. That's just going to destroy them. So this is going to help break that down. We're just going to give this a nice even mist right over it, especially in here. We'll get right in the back of the wheels. And we'll also hit the fender liners. If these are plastic fender liners, a little bit more important to do that, but that should be enough. Now, the big important thing, do not let this product dry. So quickly go around the car, let's hit all of them, make sure your pressure washer is ready to go. Right, so this is at the point of probably you need to rinse this ASAP as possible. So let's get down to rinsing it. So as you can see, the wheel's a lot cleaner now for us to go in and actually now do our little bit of our contact cleaning on it. So got the big initial grime off. Let me get that set up. I'll show you what the dilution ratios are for products on that, and we'll get into cleaning. So let's quickly run here through our wheel and tire cleaner. So Armor Detail supplies tire and rubber cleaner. This is going to be something that you can dilute down. So you can use it actually 1-to-1 for extreme cleaning, 2-to-1 for heavy duty, and then da-da-da-da-da. So you can really use it 4-to-1 or whatever. Now, I'm going to be using this 2-to-1 because the tires are quite dirty. They're looking pretty darn nasty. So a lot of people don't really understand how dilution ratios work. I've seen this in a lot of comments recently. So at 2-to-1, what we're going to be using here is 333 milliliters of water, 167 milliliters of our solution here. So you have 2 parts water, 1 part solution here for a total of 3 parts, not only 2 parts. I don't know why so many people get that confused. Green Star over here is something you can use at 1-to-10, 1-to-15, just depends how dirty it is. Honestly, for how clean we got the wheels after that first initial pre-rinse, you can use this 1-to-15. And then the ADS iron removing wheel cleaner over here says a straight use product. So we'll get these ready to go, get our bucket filled up with a pH neutral soap, get to cleaning. So we've got our 3 products here, and I also forgot to mention, if you do have plastic fender liners and here's something like Koch Chemie Green Star, great to get in there, and then you can use your fender well brush to scrub that down. So it might be something you want to make up while you're cleaning your wheels and tires based on that. So we're gonna first off here spray down these tires. We're gonna get a good amount of product on there, and you can already see it's doing its job, getting that nasty tire browning off. We're going to spray down the wheels here as well. These aren't super bad and definitely a little overkill using the iron base remover here, but it's been quite a while since I've actually cleaned these, so it makes sense to actually do it. So if you wanted to use Green Star, now would be a good time to hit those plastic areas, get all of that. Now, while that's soaking on there, I like to grab my foam cannon filled with pH neutral shampoo here, and this is going to give us some lubrication for actually cleaning everything, as well as the detergents to actually help as well. So let's start off here on the tire. I'm going to take the XL brush from Detail Factory here because they're quite big tires for what the car is. Now you want to avoid getting this on your wheel face. Again, if you've got those gloss black wheels, this is going to absolutely destroy them. So just give these a good healthy scrub all the way through as much as you can. We're not looking to get them perfect here. We're just looking to get them clean. All right, next we're going to come in with the wheel face brush. This is a very, very gentle brush, very helpful for getting in most of those nooks and crannies here, but we're just going to go through gently clean all this. Now, I absolutely hate these wheels on this car, by the way. I'm sure somebody has already commented that by now. I think they're absolutely heinous, but they are some of the easiest flipping wheels to clean on the planet. So I'm not too upset about that. Now we're gonna come in here and we're just gonna hit all the areas with our softer Detail Factory brush. Boom. Hit all these little guys in here, especially around the valve stem. Get all those little areas. Just hit this one more time. Looking good. And then if we want to, we can get back here in our barrel. So these brushes are great. You can see I've got a very tiny opening. This can get all the way to the back of the wheel. Absolutely no problem. And this, especially on the EV9 here, is an area I don't get all the time just because it's a little annoying to get to and hard to rinse and all that stuff. But definitely essential for getting these things cleaned. Now, if you did have really spokey wheels, I would take your wash mitt here, and what you would do is basically wrap this on your hand and get the back of the spokes, things like that. You can also use this for the face of your wheel if you'd like. If you don't like using a bunch of brushes, if you're a little nervous on it, maybe just polished them. This is definitely a little bit on the safer side, but those wheel face brushes from Detail Factory, absolutely incredible. And then lastly, you would grab your fender well brush here and scrub out some of these areas. This being carpet, not that necessary to do. So now that we've got that good, I think it's time to rinse it down and move on. Sweet, so those are looking absolutely fantastic. So I'll clean up the other three, then we'll actually get into our pre-wash on the body. But before we do that, let's talk about door jambs. Right, so before we foam down the car with our Prewash 2.0, let's come in here and get belt hammer touchless in all of the door jambs. Now this is not super bad, but I just want to show you guys this process. So this is basically going to be a completely touchless solution. Now, if this is really, really bad in here, you can have an IK foamer. What I would recommend is foaming it in there, grabbing some brushes and all these little nooks and crannies in here. Just make sure you hit those. So I'm just going to go around the entire car here. We'll open up the back door. We're going to spray down all of these, and then we'll foam on our Prewash 2.0 on the exterior of the vehicle. And while this is dwelling, the other one's dwelling for our pre-wash, it'll be doing its thing, eating up that dirt and grime for us in here. Let's quickly talk about dilution ratios for Labo Cosmetica Prewash 2.0. Again, alkaline-based pre-wash, you could use Built Hammer Touchless here if you prefer to use that product. This is my preferred in a foam cannon for the larger areas of the vehicle. So, two different ways to use this, or two different dilutions to use this. So for winter dirt and grime, 5-to-1. For summertime dirt and grime, 10-to-1. We're going to be using 5-to-1 here. So I'm going to mix up 600 milliliters of total solution. So at 6-to-1, pretty easy math to do there. 500 milliliters of water, 100 milliliters of Prewash 2.0. Yes, it is quite a bit of solution, but I promise you guys, a pre-wash is the best thing on the planet. So we'll get this mixed up. Let's foam this down, let it dwell, and eat up that dirt and grime. All right, now you can see here with Prewash 2.0, it is quite a wet snow foam here, especially with the 635 up there on the wall. And that's a good thing, because what this is going to do is lift that dirt and grime and basically drip it off of the surface. It's a little harder to see with the Swiss tracks than the old epoxy floors that I used to have here. But I think you'll be amazed of how clean the car is by just doing this and rinsing it down after the fact. So this is just going to eat up all that nasty crud here, so that when we actually do go to touch it, we're not just scrubbing dirt into the surface of the car. That is always the safest way to go about it. You can really already see that bluish green come through and not quite as brown and nasty as this thing was before. And again, this is the whole reason I didn't, put any protection on the wheels, because it's going to get all over the wheels here. So we'll let this sit here. You do not want to let this stuff dry. This stuff, I will say, is slightly safer than Belt Hamber touchless. So if you're using this stuff outside, this stuff is pretty awesome. It is very hard to spot or stain anything, whereas touchless, you can actually start staining some like anodized aluminum, window moldings, things like that. If you know Teslas, that's a big deal. So next, let's talk about DIY Detail Incredible suds here. So after we let this sit, we're going to rinse it down. We're going to get our Incredible suds mixed up. We're going to refoam the car and start a contact wash. All right, while Premise is doing its thing, this is where everybody panics, but we're gonna get our bucket set up for our wash mitts. So I like to utilize the one bucket method. We'll go through what that is when we get to our contact wash stage, but basically I take 8 to 10 wash mitts, put them in a bucket with pH neutral shampoo, and wash panel by panel so that I'm not bringing contamination back on the car. So I've got the auto fiber mitts here. These will be linked in the description, as well as the mitt on a stick here, which is incredible for something as big as the EV9. So while the Premise is doing that, get all this set up, your bucket, your foam cannon for pH neutral soap, but we've got to rinse this down. Once it starts to break apart like this, time to rinse. It is just insane what a cleanup job just a pre-wash does here. So have not touched the paint whatsoever. You can just see how much cleaner the car already is. So that's the awesome thing. Now, before we move on to our pH neutral stuff, we need to ensure that we get all of our door jambs rinsed down. So again, this is the Keeve nozzle here hooked on the pressure washer. So you can see what we're gonna do here is just rinse this gently down. Sorry, it's very hard to film all of this while doing this with one hand, holding a camera. Okay, so you can see that's looking a whole heck of a lot cleaner. Now these weren't that bad. If they were bad, of course, go in there, scrub them like that. But this makes all the difference for getting all of these nooks and crannies really clean using something like a pre-wash here. And it's not necessarily completely touch-free, but it's pretty darn close. Now that we've got this rinsed down from our Premise 2.0, it's just, I cannot believe how insane pre-washes are. It's now time to move to our pH neutral shampoo. So we'll foam down the entire car. I've made up 1,000 milliliters of this. We're not gonna need that whole thing. It may come into play a little bit later on, so stay tuned. Yeah, let's foam this thing down and get to our contact wash. All right, so let's come in here. We're gonna start washing this. And again, using the one bucket method. Now, yes, I know the viewers will say, there's 2 buckets there. That is my disposal bucket. So once I'm done with this panel, so I'm gonna flip it over at this point. I'm gonna go down the sides here. This one's done. Then I grab a fresh one, right? And I'm gonna come back in here and I'm gonna do the other side of the hood. Let's get on over here. It's always fun to wash cars. Try and set up tripods for you guys. Boom. Flip. We've got a fresh, clean side. So then we'll come down here, get this area, come into this, come all the way down. Done. Pretty nice. So now I'll grab a fresh one and we can do the front end. So I'll typically split this in half here. Start top to bottom. These grills on this EV9 are really annoying. Fresh microfiber here. So we're going to start on the sensitive areas here first. Kind of border that in. Hit the mirrors. I'm going to come down the side, get around the door handles. Working in gentle straight lines. I'm not putting pressure on this, by the way. Can go all the way to the bottom, flip, come to the top. This is just such a way safer way to wash your car and make washing your car a little bit more efficient as well. Moving to the dirty boy back end. So I'm gonna start on the areas I can reach there. Get under the spoiler, hit the glass. I'm gonna go to about there. We're gonna flip so it's nice and clean. Done. And this is where the mitt on a stick comes in really handy for these big boy cars like this. Still have a very safe wash mitt on here. I can come back over to the other side. Can just get this clean. And then we can hit the entire roof with this. All right, so next step now that we've done our full contact wash is to rinse the car off. Now, while I was walking around the car, what I'm looking for is looking at the glass, certain areas of the car for heavy water spotting. Should be very easy to actually see those. Now, if you do have that, that means we need to do another acidic step on here in terms of snow foam. So what I would do is totally rinse this down, refoam the car with your acidic soap, or you can just use it in a bucket with a fresh clean mitt and you're just going to work it into the surface. Now you can also use this in conjunction with your iron remover. Not necessarily the best to do that, but you can do that. So I'm going to skip that on this car. We don't really need to do the acidic wash. It doesn't have a ton of heavy water spots here, anything like that. So we'll just get this rinsed down, but we are going to do a decontamination on this with our iron remover. So let me get this rinsed down. We'll jump into that. Moving now into what we would call our decon stage. So we're going to be using an iron remover on this and a synthetic clay towel. Now there's a couple different ways you can do this, and I quickly want to run you through it. So we can either use the soap that we had in our one bucket method. Again, this is completely clean soap. We can take this, dunk it in there. That is going to help with lubrication in there. It's also going to be pH neutral. Now, what I was saying earlier is you can combine your acidic stage with doing this by adding acidic soap into there. So you could dump that bucket out, add acidic soap. So you're going to get a little 1-2 punch of your iron removing properties and it being on the more acidic side if you need to remove some of those water spots. We're not going to do that. Now, there are a couple different ways you can actually use this product. Now, there's two totally different methods of this. There's the method of which I mostly subscribe to, which is taking said product, misting it on the surface and kind of letting it sit. The other way you can do it, since you have lubrication on here already, your water, what you can do is essentially take your clay towel here, take it right out of the pH neutral soap. You can spray directly onto there, spray directly onto here, and then we are going to put it on the surface and we're gently going to work it in exactly on that spot where we were, right? Now, again, I do want to warn you, I am not a huge believer that this will not ever add mooring to the surface. Reason being is if you have a lot of iron particulates on here, they're very sharp, very jagged. A lot of that stuff is the same that comes off of wheels. Now, if you're sitting here doing this, what do you think is happening? Yes, you're picking those up into this clay. You do have lubrication here, but the likelihood that you're micro marring the surface is pretty high. So this is not something I recommend doing it all the time. It's just something when the car actually needs it. So what I recommend doing before you even decide this, take your hand and just feel the surface. And if it feels a little bumpy, a little jagged, and kind of rough, if you will, then it's time to clay. Now, again, I am not the biggest believer that you have to do this every time, nor do I think you actually have to use a clay towel all the time, especially if you have a fully coated car. A lot of the times just spraying this on the surface, letting it do its thing, rinsing it off is going to break apart some of those. Sometimes they will get embedded into the surface. So it's a little hard to say exactly what you need to do, but just quickly wanted to show you that process, gives you some tips and tricks along the way. So I'm gonna do the rest of the car here, just make sure it's nice, ready to go for the summertime, and then we'll get it rinsed off and we'll start our quick protection and drying phase. All right, so I've done my full decontamination here on the Wifey's EV9. So again, use this sparingly. Use it if your car absolutely needs it. Even if it does feel a little rough, I'm not necessarily here to tell you you should do that and potentially mar the surface up. Especially if you have super soft black paint like this, please be cautious of it if you spend a time, perfecting it and coating all of that. So I want to quickly show you through the water behavior on this car. Right, so you can see it's a little on the flat side. It does start beating a little bit. Now this car has only ever had Decon wet coat on it. So that's what I've got here on the bottle. Now this is a perfect time to, if you have a ceramic coated car, put a little bit of a topper on it. If you have nothing on it, basically like this car, it's a great time to install that after we've done our full decon here. So how this works, I'm gonna spray down the surface like this. You can see the surface tension immediately change here. Now, we're not gonna see crazy water beating behavior here because of that big boy up there, the 635 over 3 gallons per minute, but it's gonna drastically change it. So as you can see, as we get that all rinsed away, look how that water behavior comes back there. And that's how you quickly seal your vehicle. So no going on there, wiping it and doing anything like that. It's a very, very straightforward process. And the coolest part about this, you can use it on everything. So you can use this on glass, on wheels, on piano black plastic trim down here, on areas down here that are, textured black plastic. And the best thing is areas like this, the little front grills up here that are, really, really tight and intricate to do. It's a great way to add just a layer of protection. Now, don't get me wrong, this stuff is awesome, but this is not rivaling a full-fledged ceramic coating. This stuff really only lasts 2 to 3 months at max. Wintertime, realistically only a month or so, but it's a great way to just add something onto the surface to make sure that it's a little bit easier to clean up for next time. So I'm gonna finish doing the rest of the car here, then we'll get into our drying stage and all the other little intricate details to finish off our spring detail. Lastly now, time to dry, and we're gonna be using Armor Detail Supplies Amplify, their SiO2 detailer on here. So very straightforward to do this. I take my towel, one mist on there. Nice little mist all over the panel. That's just gonna help you pick up some water, also leave a little bit behind, and oh my gosh, this thing feels awesome. Amplify is just honestly one of the greatest products out there. It just feels so unbelievably nice on the surface. And at this stage, right, I'm not necessarily worried about picking up dirt. We should have everything after all that we just went through. So I'm just gently taking this towel, picking up all the water on it, and I'll do this on the entirety of the car. Now there will be areas like this front lower grille and things like that that'll actually come through here and use either compressed air, a car dryer, something like that to get those areas. So after I do that, we'll then quickly talk about the door jambs, how I go through, dry those, make sure those are looking nice, have a little bit of added protection. Might know what we're gonna be using on there, and we'll continue on. All right, we've got the outside of the car dry, now all the door jambs. These are the areas that often get forgotten and just look really filthy if you don't maintain them. So going through, doing what we did, then we just want to come in here and pick up the water so these aren't water spotted. So I've got the Armor Detail Supply Amplify. I've got a brand new clean microfiber towel. And I'm just gonna take my time, come in here, pick up all the water. So we're just using this literally like a drying aid, and then any sort of extra leftover dirt and grime here, we're just picking up with a towel. And this is what I do all the time. Now, every time I wash a car, I typically go through here, just try and grab some of that. But again, a lot of you aren't doing that every time. So that's why I wanted to include how I clean those. So final step here before we finish off for the day. So you can see the tires, they obviously don't look amazing. That doesn't mean ADS tire and rubber cleaner is bad by any means. These had a ton of blooming, and in fact, a lot of the times when you actually, go in there and clean tires, it actually leaches out more of that tire blooming in there. So one of the things that I like to do as kind of a spring reset, you can also do this in the fall, but really more in the spring. And I actually learned this from Bradley at ADS, is grab something like this. This is Stoner's Tar and Sap Remover. This is a solvent inside of here. What you're gonna see is this is gonna super clean the tire. Now they recommend using this for their Ghost tire dressing, which is a more long-term tire dressing, somewhat similar to solvent-based dressings out there. It's still water-based. I think it has like acrylic or something in it to make it last a little bit longer. Not exactly sure on the formulation, but I just want to show you guys this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my tar remover and I'm going to go right into a corner. I hope you guys can see that. I don't know how I framed up this shot. And we're just going to work this into the tire. Now guys, this is not something I recommend doing every single time you put tire dressing on. After this, basically for the rest of the summer, you just want to use something like the ADS tire and rubber cleaner, and you can see how much that actually took off. So this is stripping off any old dressings, anything like that, and you can see what it's done to the tire. I mean, it's just deeper, richer, blacker. You can also use mineral spirits or something like that on the tires, but this is typically what I'll do for a big spring cleanup here. So I'll finish off doing the rest of the tires. We'll throw a quick layer of dressing. I typically like using Carpro Pearl, either at 1 to 3, 1 to 5, somewhere right in there. Give a nice satin dressing. So let's finish this up and we'll be done with our spring cleanup. Well guys, I am no longer sleeping on the couch. Just kidding. But we finally have a clean EV9. So I really hope this video was helpful to a lot of you guys, because I know these spring cleanups, they can seem a little bit much to say the least, but this is something I enjoy doing, and dialing a car in, especially taking it from gross, dirty, filthy, how this thing was, and really just making it sparkle like it is. So if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. I'll leave all of the products linked below that we used in today's video. And again, this is just a helpful little guide for you guys to be able to use when you're looking to clean up your car and do a little bit deeper of a clean. It's not too dissimilar to doing maintenance washes, a few more steps involved and a little more dirt and grime, I would say, than usual. But dang, this thing's looking super sharp. Now, I will also mention, if you guys want an interior cleaning video, it is actually already live on the channel. I'll leave a link in the description below so you guys can go watch that. This being our dog hauler. Yeah, we had a lot of dog hair in there, and talked about my new interior cleaning regimen that I've been using for a little while. But dang, just crazy what a little cleanup here can make this thing look like. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you in another one soon.